Perfect. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started now. I just want to let everyone know that we are recording at this point, and this recording will be available on our YouTube channel by the end of the week. So it's meant to be a resource that you can fall back onto, that you can review as you need, and then it's also meant to be shared with anyone that's not able to attend today. So for those that I haven't met yet, and I know there's a lot of familiar names and some familiar faces in this call, but my name is Shelby Grauer, and I am the grant coordinator for the Organized Retail Theft Grant Program. I'm here today to give you a webinar on our preliminary application process. I want to invite you to ask questions as we go along. Please feel free to use the raise hand function, and I'll do my best to call on you. If you use the raise hand function and I miss it somehow, please feel free to come off of mute and go ahead and just interject at that point. I'm happy to make this informative and helpful as I can. So we'll go ahead and get started then. So here's a look at what we'll be going over today. So we'll start with an overview of the Organized Retail Theft Grant Program, a little update on what happened with the last legislative session, and then we'll take a look at the identified priorities for this grant program. We'll review the available funding and the duration of funding for the upcoming grant program, and then we will look at the application timeline. Then we will walk through the application together as far as some views of our online application process. And then I've also reserved some time at the end for questions, should there be any, as we conclude for today. So to start, Senate Bill 900 from the 2023 legislative session established the organized retail theft within the Criminal Justice Commission. Originally, eligible applicants included city and county-based law enforcement agencies, community-based organizations, and the Oregon State Police. There was a one-time allocation of $5 million for the 2023 to 2025 biennium, and it outlined that funds must be used on costs associated with addressing and prosecuting organized retail theft. Now, House Bill 3069 of the 2025 legislative session modified the organized retail theft grant program. There is a one-time allocation of $5 million available, and then it updated the eligible applicants to include city and county-based law enforcement agencies. So you see some examples there, and it added the Oregon Department of Justice. So you'll see that it did remove the previously eligible applicant of community-based organizations and the Oregon State Police and narrowed them down to the two that are listed at the bottom of the screen here. Now, this grant program does have some priorities, and I did want to highlight these so that applicants could keep them in mind as they're completing their application, because these will be used in the application review process. So grant applications will be reviewed for their responsiveness to the requirements in that OER that's listed in the first bullet point there. And then additionally, the commission shall prioritize applications that demonstrate any or all of the list of priorities that are listed there at the bottom. So these, of course, are available here. They are also listed within the narrative component of SM Apply, and then are available on our website as well. So applicants are encouraged to keep these in mind as they go through their application, knowing that these will be used to review the applications during the staff and commission review. So there's a total of $4,715,044 available for this process. Funds will be awarded through a competitive process, but we do want to highlight that the commission may set aside a portion to be awarded to the Oregon Department of Justice. And then the project period for this grant project would begin on October 1st of 2025 and would go through August 31st of 2027. So here's our timeline. As you're all aware, the grant solicitation was released, which prompted the preliminary application to open. That occurred on August 22nd. The preliminary applications are due by September 21st at 5 p.m. And the commission will then evaluate preliminary applications at the October meeting, which is scheduled for October 21st. This is a public meeting if anyone would like to attend and listen in while they make those decisions. And then in late October, the feedback from the commission will be provided to applicants and the final application will be opened. Then the final application will be due on November 12th, again by 5 p.m. And then the commission will make their final award decisions, anticipated to happen at the November meeting, which is again a public meeting scheduled for November 18th. Then moving on to the application walkthrough. So applications must be submitted using our online system of SM Apply. It's linked here, again, available on our website and referenced within the solicitation. The application this year is a two-part application. Last year it was a one-part application, so I do want to highlight that change as well. There's a preliminary application stage and then a final application stage. So the preliminary application includes the cover sheet, eligibility requirements, the application itself, which is a series of narrative questions, and then the budget projection sheet upload. There's also a stage that lets you upload any MOUs that you have in place. Please know that that's optional, but it is something that you are welcome to upload if you think that it would be supplementary to your application. And then again, a reminder that the preliminary application is due on September 21st by 5 p.m. And then when that final application opens, know that it will include an opportunity for grantees to respond to any commission responses and to update preliminary applications. And then again, the final applications are due by November 12th at 5 p.m. So the next series of slides are all taken directly from our online program. The intent of these is to familiarize you with these processes and to provide you any tips and tricks of it. So to begin, this is what the web page looks like if you were new, just starting out looking at this application from the very beginning. So you'll see that at the top right, there's a login and register option. You would pick the one that applies to your situation. And then once you've completed that series of tasks, then you would go ahead and click apply, which would then open up this application homepage for your agency specifically. The first thing you'll be asked to do is to name your application. We ask that you please use an identifier such as your agency's name or your task force name so that we can easily identify whose application it is. You'll see on the left there where it has my name, and next to it, it says owner, just so everyone is aware of what that means. An owner has the ability to edit all stages, review all stages, and then submit that final application. If you have someone within your agency or an external partner that's co-applying with you, that it would be helpful to have them as a collaborator. You are welcome to add them as a collaborator. You would do that by selecting that add collaborator button. And then they would be able to then edit anything within it. They would not have the same abilities that an owner has as far as reviewing and submitting, but they do have the option to go ahead and input information if you deem that that would be helpful to your application. So by just a quick update of what that looks like, it would do this pop up. You'd go ahead and input any information that you need to, and then hit send invite, and they'd be sent an email that would then ask them to follow some instructions to be added as a collaborator. So if you're ready to begin working through each step of the application, you would go ahead and start where it says your tasks. As a reminder, there are 4 required tasks and 1 optional task. You can access them by clicking on the title themselves. So for example, the next slide will be as if I had selected the cover sheet, and it will go ahead and populate a new page for us. We ask that you please complete each required section as prompted within each sheet. It will come up with an error code if you try to submit it and you're missing anything. So if you're trying your best to hit complete or to save and it just won't let you, scroll back up to the top of the page, and it's likely that you've missed a section. But this is the example of what the cover sheet page looks like, and then an example of your 2 options to save your work. So you have the option of saving and continuing, and you have the option of marking as complete. So should you select save and continue, you'll notice that there is a green semicircle on the left-hand side, and that all of the stages, those text boxes, remain open and able for you to edit. This is intended to be if you need to walk away from it, if it's the end of the day and you need to come back another day, if you need to gather information, it's your working copy. Now, once you're ready to submit your application, you do have to mark every stage as complete. So to do that, you would hit that mark as complete located at the bottom of the page, and then see that that green, what was previously a semicircle, is now completed with a white check mark, and that means that you're finished with this stage and everything is done. Again, if SM Apply is not letting you complete this, it's likely that you missed a section, so just look for those error marks. They're usually in red to let you know that you need to go ahead and complete that. So if you find that you have marked something as complete and you didn't mean to, it was an error, or once you completed it, you found additional information that you needed to input, you can edit this section by clicking the 3 dots at the top right of the page, and it will open this drop down. There's 3 useful things here, but the 2 that I want to highlight is the reset and the edit option. I do want to caution those that are opening this menu to know that if you select reset, it will delete all of your information and you will start from a blank task. So use that very cautiously. I would hate for you to lose the work that you have gone ahead and put into it. However, if you select the edit page or that edit section, it will just open it back up. So let those text boxes preserve what you put into them, but that you can make any edits that you need to. So then moving on, this is an example of the first two tasks being completed. That cover sheet, which is your primary information, identifying if you're a task force or not, and then your fiscal information, and then you identifying which of the two eligibility requirements your agency meets. So we'll move into the application questions at this point. First, I'll pause here. Are there any questions with the information I've presented so far? So not hearing anything or seeing any hands, we can continue on. So the first thing that I want to say is that it is strongly recommended that applicants read through all of the applications first. Again, you'll want to keep in mind that the narrative questions focus on how applicants address the identified priorities. Those priorities are, of course, included in this slide deck as we went through them earlier, but they're also included here at the top of this page. So it's encouraged that you keep these in mind and continue to refer to them as you answer your questions of this section. So this section is a series of narrative questions and a couple yes/no questions. It's very familiar to the application process that individuals completed last year with just a few updates. I'm sorry, last biennium, just a few updates. So here's an example of some of the questions that are listed. So question 8, you'll see that there's a word limit that is located below the text box. I do want to highlight that to say that you're encouraged to be thorough and direct with your answers. We ask that you use specific information about your individual program and how it operates, rather than relying on general statements or umbrella topics. We ask that you just be thorough and direct to your program specifically. And then as you see with number 9, it's a yes/no question, and it is what we call branching question. So your answer to this question may populate another question. So you'll see that a yes to number 9, and subsequently, if you answered yes to number 10, it would populate 9A or 910. If this happens, know that this is now a required question for you to answer. So we ask that you please provide a detailed answer to that section as well. Are there any questions about the application itself or this application stage before I move on to the budget projection sheet? Okay. So here is what the budget projection sheet task looks like. I'll go more in detail in the budget projection sheet itself and the workings of that, but I just wanted to familiarize you with what this stage looks like. So you'll see at the top there with that blue arrow, there's a click here button, and that is where you would download the budget projection sheet. So I do want to remind everyone that funding requested for this program must align with the purposes and goals of this grant program. And I also want to highlight that this is a competitive grant. So you should be asking only for what your agency needs, and you need to provide an explanation as to why that is needed within the narrative component of that budget projection sheet. So this task within SM Apply has all of the instructions here. Scrolling down, you would see that it allows you to go ahead and upload that updated budget projection sheet. But for now, I'm going to move into what that projection sheet looks like itself. So on the right here is a couple screenshots from the budget projection sheet. You'll see that it lets you submit itemized requests by category. There's several categories, so you would see which one your line item is falling into. There's a description included in each of the categories, so just read through those and the instructions to see where your request specifically fits. And then scrolling all the way to the right of the document, there is a narrative component of them. So grantees must tie their itemized request back to the priorities of the grant program, and they must show their cost calculations for it. So I do want to highlight that the names that are included here and then the dollar amounts that are here are strictly for informational purposes only. They're not intended to influence a grantee's request or intended to say this is a right size program. They're just simply used to show you how this process works itself and how the equations are working. So you'll see that for my hypothetical grant program, I've identified that I need 2 staff members at varying FTEs and that my agency would need overtime. So I've included all that information there, and then within that total column, that is a locked column that includes an equation that will help you find the totals based on the information that you've put. These are intended to be locked and not intended to be unlocked and edited. It is meant to be a tool and meant to stay as a tool, so we ask that you please do not edit that column. And then if you were to scroll further to the right, you would see what's actually displayed below. So the one here is an example of an equipment narrative. So you'll see that in my hypothetical application, I've identified that a vehicle is needed. I've included identifying information such as year, make, and model, the total price, the percentage of time that this vehicle will be spent on retail specific investigations, and then based on that information, the total request that I'm asking. So it provides a clear explanation as to what it is, why it's needed, and why I'm requesting the amount that I'm requesting. So I would refer you back to the grant administration guide, which is a clickable link once these are sent out for any allowable and unallowable expenses. If you have a request for something and you think maybe it's not clearly outlined in that, or you just still have a question, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer your question. I'm happy to get the answer if I don't have it. So if you continue to have questions with that, please just reach out. Again, I want to highlight that the formulas that are put in this are meant to assist you with the process, and they are locked and not intended to be edited. And with that in mind, the budget projection sheets that are submitted within that task must be submitted using the original formatting and formulas that we've included. If they are submitted in another format, they will not be accepted. Or if they're submitted with the formulas edited, they will not be accepted. So the budget projection sheet this year includes an additional second tab at the bottom called prioritization. So we do anticipate that this grant will be highly competitive. Therefore, we've included an opportunity for applicants to identify which components of their programs are critical and which components could potentially be cut if there were not enough funds to fulfill each budget request. So within this first section here, which is just at the top of that second tab, there's an opportunity for applicants to identify the 3 line items that are their top funding priorities. So you would list the category, the item description that you have used on that first page, make sure that they link so that it's very clear to us which one you are referring to, and then the amount requested that you're asking to please be preserved. Beneath that, in the second part of this sheet, there's a section that will ask you to show what reductions you would make if you were trying to reduce your total initial request by 3 different scenarios. So scenario A is a reduction of 15%. So your total amount is reduced by 15%. Scenario B is a 30% reduction, and scenario C is a 45% reduction. This top section here will populate for you, and it will calculate the reductions needed to meet each budget scenario. So it's meant to just be a helpful tool so that you know which numbers you are trying to accomplish. So to complete this proposed reduction section, in that section below that, you would enter the category, item description, and original amount requested. Then in the next 3 columns, you would input the reduction that you wish to apply to line item. This can vary based on each scenario that you are entering. So you may say that for your first line item, maybe reduced by 10,000 or whatever amount it is, and by scenario B, you reduce in full. Each of those can be independent, but just keep in mind that you need to complete each of those 3 so that we can have them in mind and we can have your agency's specific needs in mind when we're going through, should we not be able to fund all of the requests that are coming in. So then you would see that at the bottom there, that total reduction and new budget total, those rows need to match what is listed in the above of reduction needed and new budget total. So those 2 arrows there, those need to match once you've submitted this. So once this is all completed, you can go ahead and upload it back into that estimate apply stage. The last section of that budget projection sheet stage is an acknowledgement of the supplanting regulations. So funds must be used to supplement existing funds and not replace or supplant funds that have already been appropriated for the same purpose. Grant funds may not be used to pay for program activities the grant recipient is already obligated to pay or has already funded. Grant funds must be used to increase the total amount of funds available to deliver the program services. And these rules of supplanting also apply to any funds that are used as a match. So grantees are required to acknowledge that they are aware of the supplanting regulations and that the requested funds will only supplement their agency's budget and will not be used to supplant any funds. So to acknowledge this, you would just fill in that little dot there that says, I acknowledge the above. And then once that's completed, you can go ahead and mark this stage as complete and you've finished the budget projection sheet component. Once that stage has been completed, you can move on to the optional MOU uploads. Again, I just want to highlight this is optional. This is something that is up to you to determine if it would be helpful to your application. This section does allow you to upload multiple MOUs, so if you have several that you think would be helpful to your application, please feel free to upload all of those here. And once you're completed, you can go ahead and mark this stage as complete as well. So once we've gone ahead and we've completed everything, you will just want to review to make sure that everything has that green circle with the white check mark. You have to mark everything as complete before you're able to actually submit your application. Keep in mind that the only person on this application that is able to go ahead and submit the application is the owner of the application. So it is up to them to log back in and review it. If you decide to have multiple collaborators, that is, it is up to them to go ahead and log in and click that submit button. Once you click the submit button, it will ask you to review your application to make sure that it is complete. And then it will walk you through confirming that you do in fact intend for it to be submitted. Once you click submit, you are not able to then recall your application. You can view it, but you're not able to recall it. So if there's anything that you need to edit from that point, you will need to reach out to us so we can walk you through that. And then once it is submitted, your screen will update to say that your application is submitted and you will receive an email confirmation as well. So just some things to remember. First, I'll send out my slides to all of the current grantees and those that I'm aware of that are interested in the program. If you are not on that list, please, and you would like a copy of these, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to send them out to you. I have included several of these hyperlinks here so that you can go ahead and use them as tools. Then I do want to remind you that it's strongly recommended that applicants first read through all of the application questions as well as the priorities and closely review all of the requirements within the grant solicitation. We do have a new training available on our YouTube channel that's called Writing Effective Grant Proposals, again, linked here. It's very helpful to returning grantees and to new grantees, I think. So I would suggest that you take a look at that as well. It helps you with tips for writing your grant proposal. And then as a reminder, so this doesn't happen to anyone, budget projection sheets must be submitted using the original format and formulas that have been provided within that download. Again, as a reminder, they will not be accepted if they have been edited beyond just inputting your information. And then preliminary applications are due by September 21st at 5 p.m. I know that was a lot of information and we're only about halfway through the time we've set aside. So does anyone have any questions? Not hearing anything. So if anyone is potentially muted and just talking to their computer, know that I can't hear you, but I would love to. So feel free to unmute just one more chance to ask any more questions or raise your hand. Okay. So then please feel free to take down my contact information. My email is here. So there's a question in the chat that says, are there any limitations on equipment or items that are submitted on the grant? There are some unallowable expenses that are outlined within our grant administration guide, and that's linked within this document here. So I would refer you back to that. There's some just specific things, but if there's anything that you have in mind that you are wondering specifically, please feel free to just reach out to me. You're welcome to request a drone if you would like, and we can revisit that to see for the previous application, it was prohibited based on guidance from the governor's office. But if we receive additional questions, we can receive clarification on that as well. And if agencies are interested in drones, please feel free to reach out and let me know that that is still a request. I do see that with us specifically in there. Do you have any other questions? Yeah, of course. All right. So feel free to send me an email or give me a call. If I don't answer, please just leave me a voicemail and I'll return your call as soon as I can. But otherwise, thank you all for being here. I will send this out to everyone, including it will include the link to this webinar once it's uploaded and my slides. I'll include that grant administration guide. And then again, please use these slides as a resource and know that everything that has been linked within it will continue to stay linked in the PDF version that I send to you. But otherwise, I hope you all have a great rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.